Here are 22 hilarious news stories to start your 2022 off right. Welcome to WTFA, the satire news show that asks, what the frick, America? I'm your host, A Trillion. First off, here are New Year's Eve traditions that you have probably never heard of. In Denmark, people throw plates at the front doors of family and friends. The more plates you find outside your house the next morning, the more luck you'll have in the new year, because nothing says good luck to your neighbors like broken shards of ceramic laying at their feet. Somewhere in Italy, people throw out old furniture like blankets and cushions out of the windows. Anything that no longer brings them joy. I have some property tax bills here that no longer bring me joy, so if you excuse me, I'm going to throw these out my window. In Ecuador, people set fires to their scarecrows and burn any photographs that represented bad memories from the last year. In other fire news, France has had a horrifying tradition of car burning for New Year's. 874 cars were set alight this year. I know the French were annoyed with the show Emily in Paris, but I think burning each other's cars is a bit of an extreme reaction to season 2's premiere. If 2021 started off in isolation, the year 2022 is starting off with a fiery bang. In more fire news, South Korean officials has had to warn the public about cats lighting their owner's house on fire. In the past few years, over 100 house fires in the country were caused by pet cats. At least, that's what the people are saying. Oh yeah, it must have been the cat. Because what's the point of having a pet if you can't blame stuff on them? That photo I burned earlier? His fault. Japan is going through a crisis. Other than the global pandemic. There is a potato shortage, leading to the rationing of French fries at McDonald's in Japan. 3 U.S. planes filled with potatoes are being sent by a freight forwarding company to save the day. America may struggle with, let's face it, many things, but providing the world with fast food is one thing we do excel at. Even if it requires a couple of planes to get the people their French fries, goddammit. In news that sounds like something that should have come out of Florida but actually came out of Wales, a vicious psycho squirrel terrorizing a village attacked 22 people before being captured. 22 people for 2022. The company Too Simple has created the first self-driving truck, which completed an 80-mile drive on public roads with no driver. It was able to recognize emergency lanes, drive at night, and interact with other drivers. Big deal. I could do that when I was 16 and no one wrote a news article on me. And imagine if you were driving along and turned to see a truck with 2 empty seats. That would be even more terrifying than the rampaging squirrel. Santa is good for many things, eating presents and giving out cookies, but now we can add firefighting to his repertoire. A family in New Jersey got a surprise when Santa Claus knocked on their door and told them their house was on fire. And I hope someone told Santa that a fire truck is just not a good way to deliver presents on Christmas Eve, no matter how fun the sirens may be. Reindeer are just quieter and more efficient, even if they do smell. And then somebody else told the family in New Jersey, Santa's used to chimneys. It's going to take more than a little fire to deter him from bringing joy to the world. We've reached the halfway point of this episode, 11 whole, great, well actually, fire and trauma. So here's a happy news story. An albino jaguarundi cub, a type of South African puma, was rescued in Colombia and is now being nursed back to health. Finally, a reason to go to Michigan. A man called an animal shelter about surrendering about 60 to 80 parakeets, and then he showed up with, guess? 497. Avian mind control technology is just not up to standards these days, and whoever was building a mind control army of parakeets clearly misjudged the future direction of technology. Too many cars, not enough avian mind control. But if you want a pet bird, Michigan, has a couple available. Avoid cruises even if vaccinated, CDC tells Americans, is a headline from the BBC. I like how the headline is CDC tells Americans, as if one of two possibilities. One, the BBC doesn't think the British have to be concerned with avoiding cruises, and the NHS or whoever went and said, you know what, kiddos? Go out and have fun. Or, the more likely possibility, the BBC is throwing shade at us, implying that Americans are the only ones daft enough to go on cruises during an infectious disease. And so the CDC has to clarify that only Americans, you don't go on extended journeys on confined vessels with a bunch of strangers. This event has zero history of being a problem during a pandemic. Now, in auditory news, coral reef recovery in Indonesia is going swimmingly because scientists have recorded fish laughing at them. As a fish owner myself, a laughing fish is a sign of a healthy fish. In fact, every time I go downstairs, my fish laughs at me. And if he's not laughing, I know he's set the stove on fire again. The Golden Gate Bridge is being haunted by a screaming ghost. Actually, it's just the new wind-resistant railings that have been installed. They act like a giant tuning fork in high winds. The sound can be heard for almost 10 miles, but don't tell San Francisco so everyone thinks they're going crazy hearing strange humming noises. This is why it took some people several months to realize what the sound was. Everyone was like, no, I don't hear the screaming ghosts every time I go outside. I am normal. Now a solution has been found and the hum should be fixed by the end of 2022, which is a shame because the only thing that would make a famous bridge even cooler was if it was haunted. I feel like a nice bridge haunting while you're in the car is the ideal kind of haunting. If you are afraid of alien invasion, close your ears now. NASA recorded an eerie computer beeping and humming sounds coming from Jupiter's moon, Ganymede. Yes, Ganymede. This is why Bruce Springsteen sold all of his music masters, as we discussed in the last episode of WTFA. Musicians' jobs are finally being outsourced to the humming aliens and bridges. Time to get out of the industry now. Bad news for champagne lovers. Carbonated drinks don't last well in space because the bubbles are no longer buoyant in zero-gravity environments. Don't worry, Octavian de Gaulle designed a bottle to dispense bubbly champagne in zero gravity. The first person to work on this global crisis. So, space tourism, when it finally takes off, don't worry, you'll be able to get drunk in space too. I understand that is the main appeal. In news of politicians not being heinous or boring, Ohio's Chamber of Commerce made a deck of trading cards with all the state lawmakers, and the legislative aide, Adam Headley, got signatures from all 99 of them. This is what happens when kids who grew up on Pokemon enter the workforce. It's a good thing he didn't try and also capture the lawmakers in Pokeballs. I know from experience throwing Pokeballs at a person makes them angry. Also, gotta catch 'em all should not be your motto for life. For example, catching all of the COVID variants. Children in Portugal are going to court to force the government into action to fulfill their climate change promises. Finally, some mob rule from the non-voting population, taking things into their own hands. I'm so proud. It reminds me of 1776. The planet is still suffering from climate change, so clearly the voting population hasn't done much, and the polar bears have not figured out how to get into the voting booths quite yet. In other French news, France is banning plastic packaging for most fruits and vegetables. While we're at it, why not ban all plastic packaging? You can buy as much milk as you can carry in your cupped hands. 700 sheep and goats were moved into the shape of a 330-foot-long syringe by a woman in Germany, hoping that since sheep are such likable animals, they will be able to deliver the message of "get vaccinated" better than the doctors. If I were still unvaccinated, ignoring the pleas of doctors from all over the globe, I do think the haunting, mesmerizing eyes of a goat would be the thing that pushed me over the edge to get the stab. A viral TikTok shows a woman who tested positive for COVID mid-flight, deciding to voluntarily quarantine herself in an airplane toilet. Personally, I think this is a really convoluted scheme to get a private room and personal room service during a flight. Convoluted or genius. If you want to be an expert in the art of regifting, look no further than the Wasson brothers. Starting in 1987, a time I'm not really sure existed because I wasn't there, but nevertheless, they say in 1987, Ryan Wasson gave his brother a box of hard candy. And the next year, Eric Wasson, who never ate the candy, thought, you know what, there's no way he could possibly remember giving me this last year, and then regifted it to his brother. As a sibling myself, this logic makes sense. Now, a tradition, every year, the candy is gifted back and forth between the brothers in surprising ways. It's been sewn into a teddy bear, it's been delivered by a waitress, and cooked, frozen, into Jell-O. The candy by now is probably still edible because gross hard candy is indestructible. But their commitment to the bit is the kind of dedication I wish I had to my New Year's resolution of get six-pack abs every year, repeatedly. If you've made it to the end of 22 news stories for 2022, congratulations! You have as much dedication as the Wasson brothers themselves. Whether you stuck around for the laughs, or if you were screaming enraged at the sound of my voice for some reason, either way, why not hit the like button? That would be cool. And also, maybe also press the subscribe button if you would like. And everyone have a fantastic 2022!